Welcome back to Hoops and Helmets. This will be week 6. And Carson, we've been talking about this for like a week now. The college basketball transfer portal is kind of going crazy. So that's
hmm
what we're going to be focusing on today. And Carson, we're going to kick it off with the Tennessee Volunteers. They had an Elite Eight run this year, and they've done a very, very good job at retooling for another potential deep tournament run this year. They recently got a commit from Nate Ament, who is the number 4 recruit in the country. And
hmm
they also have a couple 4-star transfer players coming in, Jalen Carey, Jacoby Gillespie from Vanderbilt and Maryland, respectively. And also a couple 4-stars who have signed a letter of intent but have not. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, you got Dwayne Brown and Amari Evans coming in. So
hmm
Tennessee is looking really, really good. Do you think they're set to make another deep tournament run?
I think they are, and it all starts with Nate Ament. He is, I mean, he has the potential to be one of the best college basketball players in the nation. Now, I say potential because he just hasn't fully realized it yet, and just has some things he has to work on. He's really slender. He's got a 6'9" frame with a 6'11" wingspan, which to me automatically just screams defensive potential, right? He's very fluid for his size, so he can guard out in space. And one thing that stood out to me from watching his tape is just like the control that he plays with. He doesn't play incredibly fast. He doesn't have a super um, quick first step or anything like that, but the control of the game just comes so naturally to him, both on offense and on defense. He's a weapon as a help side rim protector with that 6'11" wingspan, 6'9" frame. And he's got really good timing on block attempts too, which is pretty rare from a young player like him. But even if he does mistime it a little bit, he has the quickness and the athleticism and the size and the length to recover for those things. Like I said, he moves well on the perimeter and he can guard smaller wings for a perimeter for a period of time. He will get beat eventually if it's extended, but even if he does, he has once again the size, the length, the athleticism to recover and get back and block it from behind. So defensively, I think he's going to be a monster, which is kind of just a theme throughout this Tennessee team right now. Offensively, he's a really good ball handler for his size. He's adept at getting to his own shots. He can just rise up. He uses his height to rise up over smaller defenders. And he's a great shooter overall. He shot 47, 42, and 90 his last year in high school. He's tall, he's long, and athletic enough to rise up and finish in the paint above contact. But basically, all of his weaknesses are just his body type, just um, his slenderness. And if he can fill out, he is going to be a monster. Right now, he has a tendency to play high when he's driving to the basket, which means his center of gravity is higher and he can just get pushed off of his spot a little bit. That'll come with time. He'll learn to play a little bit lower to the ground. I mean, as low as a 6'9" player can, you know. He also just needs to get more aggressive and assert himself, call his own number. He's not going to walk into basketball and just be a national player of the year contender like Cooper Flagg was. Um, but he could be if he stays a year or two. I truly believe that his potential just jumps off the page. Once his body develops and his mind develops, I think he's going to be a really good college basketball player. I think he's going to be a really good NBA player. So it all starts with Nate Ament, but it goes past that. Last year they got to the Elite Eight, and I think they have the formula to get there again. They are losing some pretty big pieces. Chaz Lanier, who is their best player, is going to the NBA draft. Zakai Ziegler, Jemai Mashak, Jordan Gainey are all seniors, so they're all gone. But they have a good, not great, but a good recruiting and transfer class. The thing I like about Tennessee this year is they didn't do a lot of great in recruiting or in transfer, but they also just did nothing wrong. They did no bad. They're not losing any transfers. So they're getting a lot of their guys back. Outside of Nate Ament, they have shooting guard Amari Evans. You mentioned him. He's 6'5", with a muscular build. He's got a 6'10" wingspan, so he's a really good defensive wing. He doesn't have the best lateral quickness, but his size, his length, his strength just make him really effective as a defensive player. On offense, he's really capable of getting downhill and finishing with that length. He has all the makings of a really, really good off-ball player. He is a good off-ball mover, coming around screens. He just has a knack for finding the hole in the defense. The only thing he really needs to improve upon is his shooting ability. He only shot 29% from three with the City Reapers. That's really bad. If he can become serviceable there, and I mean like 34, 35%, he has a really, really high ceiling just as a connective piece that you can kind of plug and play on any team, on any style of basketball team, and he's going to be serviceable. They also got center Dwayne Brown. He's not going to be their starting center. He'll be their backup. He's only 6'8", but he's got a 7-foot wingspan and a nearly 9-foot standing reach. So he can get up and block some shots. He's basically just a big body, though. He's not very talented on the offensive end. He's got decent touch, not good even. And he can't space the floor, even though he has tried. I believe in high school, his senior year, he went 1 for 14 from three. So, I mean, he kept shooting. He just wasn't making them. But, that willingness is still there. Defensively, he's got really good timing and instincts. He's able to guard like 2 through 5 because he's 6'8", he's small. So he has that quickness to guard smaller players. But bigger centers and smaller guards, like really small guards and really quick guards, are going to give him trouble. He's a good rebounder in his area. He doesn't really chase longer rebounds, but that length he has helps him just gobble up rebounds that are in his area. He's not going to wow you. He's not going to wow anybody with athleticism or shot making, but he's going to be really serviceable for Tennessee. In the transfer portal, you mentioned it, they got Jacoby Gillespie, and he's one of the best point guards in the country. I was a huge fan of Maryland all year. And he was one of the biggest reasons why him and Derek Queen, he shot 41% from three, both as just being a really great, difficult shot maker and with step backs and off the dribble threes. He was 38% off the dribble threes. And as an off ball mover, whenever he got an open catch and shoot three, he shot 48% from there. So he's just a really good combo guard. He's also a really great and willing passer. He averaged 4.8 assists to 1.9 turnovers. That's a really, really good assist to turnover ratio, especially in college. And he averaged 1.9 steals per game. So he's one of the very best point of attack defenders in the country. Obviously, I'm sure you've heard, but that's a theme for Tennessee right now. Nate Ament is a really good defender. Amari Evans is a really good defender. Dwayne Brown is a good defender. And Jacoby Gillespie is a really good defender. And then they're retaining a couple really good pieces too. Felix Okpara, who is going to be the starting center, averaged 7 points and 6.5 rebounds a game last season. But the majority of his value just comes as a rim protector. He averaged 1.7 blocks. Because he's 6'11" and he has a 7'3" wingspan, so he is just a huge body. He functions as a good lob threat, but the majority of his value is as a rim protector, where he's one of the very best. And Cade Phillips, they're bringing back JP Estrella, they're bringing back, and Bishop Boswell, they're bringing back. I don't really expect these guys to be high-level contributors, though Cade Phillips did do pretty well as a backup big to Okpara last year. And JP Estrella got hurt after 3 games. He had a foot injury, but coming out of college, he was expected to be a pretty good contributor. So if he develops as we thought thought he was going to, then he'll be a good contributor for this team. So all in all, Tennessee is just looking like a hard-nosed defensive team that has 1, maybe 2 surefire offensive superstars in Gillespie and potentially Nate Ament. and they have a really good coach in Rick Barnes. I think he's incredible. I think he's like a bottom of the tier 2 or top of the tier 3 coach. So to me, Aaron, that is the formula for a top 8 college basketball team. I really do think that they have the potential to get back to the Elite 8 and maybe even further, depending on Nate Ament's development. It really all hinges on how he develops, especially in terms of like body size, muscle. If he puts on muscle, Tennessee's going to be a really, really difficult team to beat.
And next thing we're going to talk about, to me, this is probably one of the more insane stories out of college basketball so far. Baylor has lost every single player that was on their roster to either the draft. VJ Edgecombe, only guy going to the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was 4 guys who just ran out of eligibility, and 9 guys hit the portal.
Yeah.
Carson, what is next season going to look like for Baylor? They've got some solid transfers coming in, but still they've never played together, so it's obviously going to be tough for them to make it to the tournament. And
yeah,
I mean, just what's your best case outlook and realistic outlook for Baylor this upcoming season?
it's not gonna be good, man. I mean, look, they still have time. The transfer portal closes tomorrow, but that doesn't mean that all players have to be committed to somewhere. So they still have time, but it's not looking very good for them. I mean, even with VJ Edgecombe last year, who's a top 3 NBA prospect, they were a 9th seed in the NCAA tournament, and now they've lost literally everybody. And I think they only have like 6 players tied up on their roster right now. 6. Obviously, they will have more than that. You can't run a basketball team with just 6 players. That's pretty difficult, but it's still just not going to be very good for them. They did land Andre Iguodala the second, which is just another like college basketball player coming from an NBA Sun. It just they're kind of taking over, to be honest, but I still just don't expect them to be very good. I think it's probably worse than last year, unless they make some significant moves in the portal, which I don't think they've done yet. Not enough to fill what they've lost. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be very good for them.
And an estimated 35% of Division I players have hit the portal this year. Carson, what needs to be done to resolve this so we can get some type of continuity with rosters?
Something has to be done. That is for sure, in my opinion. I just don't think that college basketball can continue like this. I mean, when you have Baylor, who is one of the they're a pretty big basketball school, just a pretty big school in general, so they should have the money to kind of keep up. And they're just not. So I don't really know what has to be done. I don't know if I thought about because before, if you transferred, you lost a year of eligibility. Maybe at this point you just say and a suspension is just a weird word, but maybe at this point you give them well, probably not a 6 even, but maybe like a 4 or 5 game suspension. I don't know, just something to discourage these guys from leaving every single year, because it's every single year. I mean, a lot of these guys have hit the transfer portal every year of their career, and they're juniors and seniors now, so I think something has to be done. Jason mentioned this in our college football show last week. Maybe you do like $1 million cap on teams, so they can't just be throwing out NIL money. I think there are like a bunch of teams that are spending 10 million NIL deals in total. So I don't know. I think something does have to be done. I just don't really see what can be done. And I also just don't think that anything will. I don't think that the NCAA is has any plans to do anything for it. So yeah, I think something has to be done, but I mean I'm not extremely hopeful for it.
And Carson, moving on to your Duke Blue Devils, obviously they've had a good high school recruiting class, but they did recently have Sheldon Henderson, the number 14 recruit in the country, decommit, and he has since committed to the University of Miami. And Duke has not signed a single player out of the transfer portal. Carson, are you at all concerned with how Duke is recruiting? Well, it looks like we lost Carson there for a bit, some technical difficulties, but he should be back. I was just deciding to not work, but he will be hopping back on momentarily. But me personally, I'm not concerned about Duke not recruiting anybody transfer portal. They still have one of the best high school recruiting classes. John Shire is a very, very good coach. It's it feels like a little bit of a nothing burger as far as I'm concerned. They're still going to be a good team. Yes, Knipple, Proctor, Flag, they're all gone, but what we've seen the Duke Blue Devils do in these last few years is they have these guys who are there just 1, 2 years, and they do a phenomenal job at bringing new guys in, filling that void. I would like to see them get a couple guys in the portal. It can't hurt to just build that roster up a bit with more experienced players so that you're not overly reliant on these 19-year-old kids who just haven't played as much basketball as these veterans who've been around for a long time. But yeah, again, apologies for the technical difficulties. I'm gonna talk about Thursday's show. So obviously, we're going to be doing a live NFL first round draft mock watch along. Again, sorry, I know how to talk, but it's going to be really great. We're going to go live right before the draft starts. We're going to have a lot of guys from Boom on, going to have some special guests. There won't be any regularly scheduled hoops and helmets that night because me and Carson will be functioning as the hosts of the first round watch along. It's going to be a great time. Again, going live 15 minutes before the draft. We're going to be going all the way through it. It's going to be a fun time, but Carson might be back. Doesn't look
Sorry,
like
gang.
it. This is unfortunate.
Am I back? Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Carson, can you hear me? Yes, I can
I
hear
can
you
hear
now.
you. Okay, cool. Sorry, guys. We're having some
And
technical difficulties today.
atrocious technical difficulties.
Seriously.
Are we good, Carson? Can you
We're
hear
good.
me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. I do not know what's going on. This is atrocious. But while you were gone, I just gave like my take on the Duke situation. But are you at all concerned with them not signing any transfer guys? And are you at all concerned about Shelton Henderson decommitting?
I am concerned. I hope you guys can hear me correctly now. I am concerned. Um, this comes after Knipple and Proctor and Hooper Flag now have all officially declared for the NBA draft. Duke has not had the strongest recruiting season, especially for their standards, and nobody in the transfer portal. As for right now, I think Duke would be okay, but they're not a real title contender in my eyes. Um, just based on the players have that have either committed or the people who have for sure left. The starting lineup would consist of either Caleb Foster or Caden Boozer at the one, probably Caden Boozer, Darren Harris or Isaiah Evans at the two, Nicholas Kaminia, who is a recruit, um, at the 3, Cameron Boozer at the 4, and Kaman Malawak in the 5. And that's not even taking into consideration that Isaiah Evans and Malawak are both expected to declare for the NBA draft at some point. So if this is the lineup that they have, Duke wouldn't be dead in the water per se. You know, they still have Caleb Foster, Kane Boozer are both very good decision makers. Darren Harris and Isaiah Evans are both knockdown 3-point shooters. Nicholas Kaminia and Cameron Boozer are both do it all forwards. They're going to be competing, I think, for the best player on the team. Nicholas Kaminia, I think, has been very underrated. And he's the 15th recruit in the nation, so that tells you something. And Kaman Malawak, we know what he is, a defensive monster and a great lob threat. And all around all this playmaking would be really, really nice. And they would have decent depth, obviously. Caleb Foster, Caden Boozer, either Darren Harris or Isaiah Evans, and then Malik Brown and Patrick Ngungba II are both really good backup bigs, in my opinion. So, look, it wouldn't be great, but it also wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing, but we wouldn't be real title contenders by any means, in my opinion. However, it is still early. The transfer portal is not closed. It closes tomorrow, but like I said, even then, there's still plenty of time to pick up transfers. And Duke has been in talks for a transfer. Andrej Stojakovic, who is the son of one of my favorite NBA players ever, Peja Stojakovic. He's a really good transfer. Maybe he has gotten a little bit overrated, but he's really good. His biggest strength is just his fluidity and his ball handling for his size when he's attacking the basket. He's a really good off-ball mover and has a knack for finding the soft spot in the defense. He doesn't shoot a super high percentage from 3, but he shot better in high school. So I think that he has potential for improvement and maybe just had a bad 3-point shooting season. It happens all the time. I think that he'll be better from there. And defensively, he just knows where to be. He has really good height and length. He blocked 1.2 shots per game. That being said, he is a bad passer at this point. He has a negative assist to turnover ratio, and he's not a high-end athlete, so he can kind of struggle to get past defenders when he's attacking the closeout. Listen, I think Duke will be all right. At this point, I just don't know if they can fill the talent that they have lost. So I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. And I can't say, like last year at this point, even I could just say they're a lock for a Final Four run, a Final Four push, or at least an Elite 8 push. I can't say that this year. I could see them going out in the second round. I could see them going out in the Sweet 16. So we'll have to see. I trust John Shire. I think that he will bring some guys in. I don't think that this is it for Duke whatsoever. But my hopes aren't extraordinarily high, I will say, especially after Sheldon Henderson just left. So, yeah, I'm not super excited for this upcoming season for Duke.
Duke undoubtedly losing a lot of talent, so you're not going to be able to replace it, but they still have brought in some great players as well. I'm comfortable calling them a Sweet 16. I think once you get much further past that, it's a little up in there because there are a lot of teams that have really hit some massive home runs in the transfer portal, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Carson's going to give you some impact transfer players who have the potential to be huge difference makers for their teams. And Carson, who's the first guy that you want to talk about?
Well, Aaron, no team has hit it bigger in the transfer portal than Michigan this year. They have the #1 transfer class. They're just looking really good. I think they're going to be a national championship contender. And the head of that is Yaxel Lindeborg. He is truly one of the best defensive players in the country. He's 6'9" with a 7'3" frame, so he just gobbles up blocks and rebounds at an obscene rate. 1.8 blocks per game, 11.4 rebounds per game, and maybe most impressive for his size, 1.7 steals per game. So he's a game changer. defensively. I think he's got potential to be the defensive player of the year. And he will almost definitely be the best player for Michigan. And like I said, I think they have national championship potential. So that's a really, that's big aspirations for him. Offensively, he is incredibly agile for his size, which I feel like I'm saying for everybody. That's just kind of the way the game is going, you know. Everybody is pretty agile for their size at this point. Anybody 6'9" and up, at least. He converted about 76% around the rim, which puts him in the 83rd percentile in college basketball, which is amazing for a player who begins his actions on the perimeter. He's really capable of putting the ball on the floor and avoiding contact or going through it. He's not a small dude. I think he's like 240 pounds at 6'9". So he's not a small lanky guy, you know. His three-point shooting is increasing. Last year he shot 35%, which is serviceable. The year before, I think he shot 32%, maybe 33%, which isn't very good. But it's increasing year to year, which is really just encouraging to see from him. He's a really good passer as well. He has a 2.1 or 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. Look, he's just going to be one of the best players in college basketball next year. Could potentially push, depending on how his offense looks, he could potentially push for National Player of the Year. And he's going to be a really high draft pick no matter what, especially if he can up his three-point efficiency, which is really the one flaw in his game. I think in the last game that he played, which I believe was the AAC tournament game, he had 30 points, 20 rebounds, and 8 assists to no turnovers, which is just insane. So yeah, he is going to be a monster for Michigan, and I think that he's going to be one of probably a top 5 draft pick in next year's draft.
Without a doubt, Michigan's going to be a super fun team to watch. And Carson, one player that I want to make sure that we hit on before we head off is Ian Jackson. Obviously, left my North Carolina Tar Heels. He had a solid season. He's just under 40% from three, just about 12 points per game. A negative assist to turnover ratio, not great, but he is joining a St. John's team that had a really good run. Rick Pitino is doing great stuff with that team, and Ian Jackson feels like a really, really good addition. Carson, what are your thoughts on this move?
I think it's a really good move. I think Ian Jackson is a really, really good player. He just had an inconsistent season at UNC, which is kind of a trend for UNC players in the past few years. He averaged 12 points and 3 rebounds for UNC. Eventually, he slipped down the rotation towards the end of the year. I think he had 17 total points over his last 5 games, which isn't good. But earlier in the year, specifically between December 21st and January 15th, he averaged 23 points on 54% shooting and 41% from 3. And that's just who he is. He's a pure scorer, whether it's racing in transition, where he finished second among all freshmen in points, or as a three-point shooter, where he shot 39%. He is not a good decision maker. He has a tendency to take over, and if his shot isn't falling, he's just really not a valuable not a valuable basketball player. He's a good on-ball defender, but his team defense needs a lot of work. His off-ball defense needs a lot of work. And he just needs to rework the mental understanding of the game of basketball, in my opinion. He just gets this tunnel vision that is blinding. It's like he just completely stops the ball, will kill momentum for the offense. But there's nobody better to fix that than Rick Pitino, in my opinion. So I really think he's going to do well at St. John's. I think he'll have a breakout year. Fortunately for me, being a Duke fan, it's going to be in Queens rather than Chapel Hill. I'm sure you're not happy about that.
Yeah, I'm really not.
You told me
it was rough. He was one of the only guys that you could really count on to make shots outside of RJ Davis, and
Yeah.
we lost him. And this is what St. John's needs. They struggled to shoot the ball very well last season, and that's what Ian Jackson does pretty well. Again, just shy of 40% from three on the year. I'm just going to assume he's going to get more accurate with that. I mean, his freshman year was really similar to what we saw out of a freshman Caleb Love, except he was more accurate in his
Yeah.
shooting and uh, committed more turnovers. Not quite the same passer that Caleb Love was, but more accurate as a scorer. And I would have loved to see another couple years out of him in Chapel Hill, but he's gone. I think St. John's is going to kill it again. It's a phenomenal addition for Patino. But Carson, who's another guy that you want to hit on?
Before I do, I just want to ask you as a UNC fan, what hurt more, losing Ian Jackson to the transfer portal, or losing Elliot Cadeau to the transfer portal?
Ooh, probably Ian Jackson, because I think we've just seen what Cadeau is gonna what he's gonna be. I'm not sure how much more he'll develop. I think he'll probably get a little more accurate, maybe slightly better shooting, but I think Ian Jackson, he just has more room to grow than Elliot
Yeah,
Cadeau does. So I think that that one definitely hurt more.
I completely agree. Elliot Cadeau, we had seen what he was, just
And
inefficient
still
scorer.
like a talented player in his own right.
Yeah.
Strong defender, good passer,
Hmm.
a guy that UNC definitely could have used next season, but that's another player that Michigan added to a really, really good portal class.
Really, really good portal class. The next person I have, Aaron, is a guy who came from the national championship team in Florida. I have Denzel Aberdeen. He, I think, was probably the third best guard, or no, probably the fourth best guard, just um, in a loaded guard room in Florida. He was a key bench contributor to that team. He has good height. He's 6'5", for a point guard, especially, but he's very slight. He's 190 pounds, and 190 pounds isn't terrible for that height. But some guys are just more muscular at 190 than he is. He's a pretty slight 190. And he can get pushed off his spot. We saw it in the Houston game where he only had 7 points. He just could never really get the shot he was looking for. He he struggles to make his own shot against high level defenders, but he excels when he can get downhill, especially in the pick and roll. He finished in the 77th percentile in pick and roll efficiency. Defensively, he's an excellent point of attack defender with his length and his speed. He got about 20 minutes a night at Florida, and it was all because of his defense. I mean, he gave some offensively, but defensively is where he really pulled his weight. He was always guarding the other team's best player, and that was a Florida team that really needed it because they didn't have the best perimeter defenders. He improved as a shooter. He's still not knocked down, but he was shooting 35% from three, which is serviceable. But he really needs to improve as a passer, especially as a top point guard. You'd think he'd be better, but he only averaged 1.4 assists to one turnover. I think that is kind of ridiculous for him. As a 6'5" point guard, you just have a better court vision. You have better passing angles you can get to. So I think that's kind of crazy. He had a really high turnover percentage, a higher turnover percentage than assist percentage. He did knock down 40% of his catch and shoot threes, and he's a good off ball mover. So I think he should be used as more of a shooting guard than a point guard, honestly, which is good for Kentucky because they got their primary ball handler in Jalen Lowe, who also came from the portal. So I really like that pickup for Kentucky. I think it's a really good fit for them. And when you can pick up really good perimeter defenders who are improving from the 3-point line, that's always good for your team. So he can kind of just be plugged in and played however he needs to play. And I think that's really a really, really good pickup for Kentucky.
And who's the second to last impact transfer that you want to touch on?
I have Silas Damari Jr. here. He came from Georgia and he's going to UConn. Silas Damari is a combo guard who just really excels in his physicality. On offense, he prefers to get downhill. He gets to the rim and he uses his big body to just really make guys bounce off of him, just play through contact. And he gets to the line at a really good rate. He is not a great finisher statistically, but I think a part of that is context. Georgia was playing two big lineups, and that really just mucks up spacing. But even in that even in that poor spacing, Damari Jr. was effective because he's a good 3-point shooter, especially as a catch and shooter. I think he shot 37% from three, and he's a better catch and shooter than he is as a pull-up shooter. He's a great defender. He's capable of switching through 1 through 3 and even smaller fours just because of his size and his tenacity. He averaged 1.7 steals this season, and his versatility just really stands out, both offensively and defensively. He's going to be an impact player no matter where he goes, no matter what team he is put on, because he can beat you in so many different ways. He can shoot, he can get to the line, he can get to the rim. He's not a great passer though. That's probably his biggest weakness at this point. He averaged 3.1 assists, which is good, to 2.3 turnovers, which isn't very good. You could once again muck that up or put that on Georgia's spacing because it's hard to get a lot of assists when your guys aren't great 3-point shooters and the defense is packing the paint. So I'm interested and excited to see how Dan Hurley uses him in this system. Because he can be used in so many different ways. He is my second to last transfer player, though, Aaron. My number one is probably my second most impactful transfer, and that is Xavier Lee. He's coming over from Princeton. He got a lot of headlines when he finally did transfer to Florida because he's one of the best point guards in the entire nation, dude. He's incredible. At Princeton, he averaged 17, 6, and 4 on 43, 37, 79 shooting splits. Not the greatest efficiency, but you have to think on Princeton, the defensive game plan is just stop this guy. He doesn't really have anybody else around him. So I'm not too worried about that. He also had 1.2 steals and 2.2 turnovers. So that's a really good perimeter defense and really good assist to turnover ratio. He is one of the best offense runners in the nation. He plays with really high pace, and his blend of scoring and passing just put him apart from the rest. He kind of reminds me of like Tyrese Halliburton in that. Just an elite pull-up shooter, comfortable attacking the rim, which is kind of where he sets himself apart from Halliburton. He can pull up from the mid-range. He can knock down threes off the dribble. And as a catch and shooter, he's just a 3-level scorer. He can finish through contact, but he does need to improve his strength if he wants to be a high-level finisher. And that's basically his major flaw. Defensively, he has really good lateral quickness, which allows him to keep up with the speedsters. But he could just get bullied by stronger guards like Silas Damari Jr., or just players of his type, stronger, bigger guards. He is a very good ball handler, and he just has a control of the offensive end that you don't see out of players very often in college, especially just young players. So I think he's going to be a really, really good fit, really, really good. Especially, I'm excited to see how Todd Golden uses him. Because once again, just like Silas Damari Jr., he's really defensive, just specifically on offense. Outside of strength, I want to see him improve as an off-ball player. He didn't really have a lot of chance to do that at Princeton, and he probably won't be doing that very often at Florida either. But that's just kind of where I think if he wants to be a high-level NBA player, that's where he needs to improve on the most. Aaron, I didn't get to everybody. I only picked 5 this time, but I did want to shout out some guys just because of how absolutely insane the portal has been. I want to shout out Ian Scheffler from Clemson. He is only a 3-star transfer, but I think he's so much better than that. I think he's so underrated. He's a good shooter. He's a good passer. He's a great rebounder, and he's just an ultimate glue guy. I want to shout out Brandon Huntley Hatfield from NC State. He would have been on my list had I known where he's going. It just hasn't. He just hasn't declared anything yet. He is a massive, massive body. But he has skills to where he can play from all 3 levels of the court. He can shoot 3 mid range, or he can get inside. And then Jaden Epps from Georgetown, I wrote down. He's an athletic 6'2" combo guard with a really quick first step and the ability to play at all 3 levels. Specifically from mid range, that's kind of his bread and butter. He's got kind of an old school way of playing. So those are my my impact transfers that I wrote down for now. Like I said, transfer portal is going absolutely insane. Tomorrow we could get more. So who knows what we're gonna see.
We probably will get more tomorrow because that's how it works, Carson. Big news always drops right after the show ends or the day after the show. Any interest in a baseball show? If you want a baseball show on Boom Broadcasting, be sure to check out Dugout Debrief, hosted by my good friend Chris DeLuca. And Carson, unless you have anything else to say today, I think that'll be it for this episode of Hoops and Helmets. And again, like I mentioned earlier when we lost Carson there for a couple minutes, there won't be any regularly scheduled Hoops and Helmets this Thursday because we're doing a live first round watch along. We're going to have a handful of guys from Boom on, a couple special guests that you haven't seen on the channel before. Me and Carson will function as your 2 hosts, so that's how it's still like Hoops and Helmets, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be a great time. Stay tuned for that. Going to be going live 7:45 p.m. Eastern time this Thursday night. It's going to be a fun time. I love the NFL draft. It always feels like a holiday to me, Carson. And that'll do it for today. Hope everyone has a good rest of their night.